Hello and welcome to Student Branding TV. I'm Derek Mardinian.
And I'm Erica Zuko. Today we're going to give you a little update on our internships, and we're also going to talk about how World of Warcraft applies to your personal brand. Derek, how have things been going over the past couple of weeks?
Things are going good. It's been kind of cool over the past few weeks because as everybody at the office continues to get to know one another, people are searching each other online and whatnot, and two people from the office have experience in the publishing industry, and so we've been able to connect about that. We were talking about my book and their previous work in graphic design and book covers and all sorts of cool things about that. So we've been connecting and continuing to build our relationships around those sorts of things. Has anything like that happened to you, Erica?
Yeah, it has. For you, was it that they had Googled you or looked you up without mentioning it to you first, or was this something that happened like in the workplace?
I don't know for sure. I imagine that they just kind of, maybe saw my email signature, or they looked me up on Twitter and then they saw the link to my website and went from there.
Yeah, I was just curious because for me, I've been talking with my coworkers and everything over the past few weeks, and it hadn't really come up that much. And I was showing my website to somebody this week to ask for input on some videos that I had on there or something. And somebody else in my internship mentioned having seen my website the first week that I got there, and how they had, Googled me like my third day in and kind of looked at everything that I'd done, and were keeping tabs on what I was doing on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and yada yada, just because they were interested. Which was funny to me because I didn't know this, you know what I mean? So it was one of those types of things where I was reminded that even if you don't know people are visiting, they are, and you don't have to tell people, I have this website out there. A lot of people are going to look for it. So Derek, you found something pretty interesting on the web about World of Warcraft that relates to personal branding. Do you want to give a little synopsis?
Sure, yeah, so full disclaimer, Erica and I don't know a whole lot about World of Warcraft, so we're going to try to talk about this as best we can. But basically, there's a big story this week that the people who post in the different forums are going to have to start using their real names in order to communicate with one another. And I guess part of the idea behind this is to get people to stop trash talking one another as much and to really clean up the level of profanity and all the conversations that are going on. And this kind of builds out to the personal brand idea, because if you can't stand behind the words that you're saying with a true identity that people can connect with, then the personal brand really doesn't mean too much as far as the real world is concerned. You can build up a reputation by being helpful on different forums or whatnot under a username or whatnot that's not your own. But if you really want to take the best advantage of these opportunities when you're talking to people, maybe you're coming across as a very helpful person or a very knowledgeable person, you're not doing yourself much, a big service if you're not pulling it back and sort of aggregating it under your own name, your own personal brand. So, Erica, do you have any thoughts on what the impact of this is going to be?
Well, you can also think of it in terms of, we talk a lot of the time about the personal brand and how it relates to your professional life. And your personal brand does represent who you are professionally, but it also represents who you are personally. And for a lot of people, their personal brand might have to do with something that they're very successful at or very passionate about, completely out of their career sphere. So for some people, it really might be being that expert at World of Warcraft or with a different online role-playing game or something along those lines. And so it again brings to light the idea that what you're doing online has consequences. What you're doing always represents who you are, and you kind of need to keep all of that together in everything that you're doing online. And actually, both of my little brothers play World of Warcraft, and so for them, over the past few months, they've developed different characters, but in general, one individual character that does represent who they are online. And they're a little upset about the fact that they have to put on their name on it, because they don't necessarily, don't necessarily think that they are who that character represents. But at the same time, this is kind of merging the two worlds, the online world and the non-online world, together even more. So we see this happening on World of Warcraft. Do you think, Derek, that this could be something that could be useful on other services, whether it be on Twitter, having everyone need to authenticate their identity, or something like YouTube, where right now there are tons of commenters that'll post negative comments or, whatever comments that they want to, because they don't have to have their name out there?
Right. as from a personal branding standpoint, I think it's a very good idea if other services like YouTube started doing this, because YouTube's kind of famous for having a very critical audience of commenters on whatnot. But on the other side, I can see how this is going to severely detract from the level of user interaction, not just on YouTube, but on any platform that starts implementing something like this, because people value and appreciate privacy and whatnot. So the idea that someone is going to require you to really stand behind your words just to say anything may not be fair, but at least from the personal branding, perspective that Eric and I are coming from, it is a good thing, but people, for the most part, should still have the choice to decide whether they want to go with their real name or have a little cloak of anonymity behind them. So.
And you even get into those conversations about anonymous commenters on newspapers and blog sites and things like that, if that should be allowed. And also when you talk about children that are on the internet, when you have people that are around the age of 13, should they have to have their names out there? Should they still be allowed a little privacy? So definitely all things that are food for thought. Now, if you have any other questions for us, or if you have any suggestions or things that you'd like us to mention on Student Branding TV, you can always shoot us an email at studentbrandingtv@gmail.com. And as always, you can find more tips, information, and articles about personal branding at studentbranding.com. We'll see you next week.